This episode tonight is sponsored by Blue Chew. Look, the Dougcast, myself, James Ellsworth, we're excited to have these guys on. We don't ask anything from you, the fans. We don't do Patreon and have to make you pay for special podcasts. Everything we do is free. We don't ask you to buy shirts. We don't ask you to buy tickets to our shows. We give you everything we do for free, unless we do a live show. Disclaimer, don't know. Anyways, so the one thing we do ask you to do is support Blue Chew because they support this podcast. They help keep the lights on in the studio time and all that other jazz that you don't even care about at this point. Go to Blue Chew. Type in the promo code Ellsworth. For $5, that's just for shipping and handling, you get a free order of Blue Chew. And now you can increase the performance and get that extra confidence in bed you need. You may not need it. It may not be the pill you want because it's a chewable. That's right. It works twice as fast with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know it works. You can take it anytime, day or night, empty or full stomach. I'll tell you one thing. I popped one, chewed it up, took a shower, came out. I was ready to go. I wanted to fight for the 10 pounds of gold, if you know what I mean. You'll figure it out a little bit later in the podcast. With that being said, you get prescribed online. There's no awkwardness. There's no in-person doctor visits. It comes straight to your door in a discreet package, so you know it works. You know you won't get made fun of. You're a woman. Or look, you know what? I haven't even thought about this until now. If you're a woman right now listening, and let's say your guy isn't quite climbing to the top rope, has had trouble reaching for that money in the bed briefcase, just can't seal the deal, sometimes has to get it done with a dirty pin. No one wants a dirty pin. We all want the clean finishes. Now, you go get Blue Chew for your man. You tell him it's like Barry Bonds, baby. You go and you look at him. He'll understand. Say, look, Barry was a Hall of Famer before the steroids. He took the steroids. He became one of the best home run hitters in baseball. You tell him, look, take the Blue Chew. You hit a home run. I'll never leave you. I'll love you forever. Heck, if he lays a smack down on you the way you want him to, maybe you'll get down on your knee and give him a ring. That's all I'm saying. It works for both of you people. I know it's more than one. So go use the promo code Ellsworth. Blue Chew appreciates it. We appreciate it. Get the free order. Just try it. Have a little fun. You know what? If you have kids, send them away. If you don't have kids, be careful because we don't want you to have kids on Blue Chew unless you want to. But that's for a whole different podcast. So do what you need to do, but go get BlueChew.com. Use the promo code Ellsworth. Tweet us. Tell us you've done it so we can thank you live on the air. Now, on to the podcast. All right, James, it's the newest episode here of the Dougcast, and we actually just got 10 pounds heavier, my friend.
That's right. We got my dude Dave Lagana on the podcast today, on the Dougcast. He's the guy that's behind the 10 pounds of gold. You can check it out on YouTube, the NWA. Some really, really cool videos that I'm a big fan of. Dave, how you doing, buddy?
Good. If I only weighed 10 pounds, that'd be awesome. I'm really excited.
If Ellsworth's ego was only 10 pounds, this podcast would have been awesome.
Yeah, but the dude does numbers. His ego is, well, duh. It's earned.
Wait, so. Before we jump in and let's talk about numbers, I was going through the YouTube channel and noticed that James Ellsworth's appearance for the NWA title was one of the top, if not the top hits on YouTube for your videos. Out of all the talent you guys have had, James Ellsworth.
Well, I think he's got it beat by about, I think the next closest is somewhere 150, maybe 250. It's actually, I mean, it's no secret, James, right? I booked you because I looked at your numbers and went, well, this might do something. Now, I never thought it would hit 1 million. It just got the uniqueness of James Ellsworth, and I think unique is a very strong word that he would understand. The image, the thumbnail, we're standing across from Nick Aldis with the title that Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes held, caused a lot of people to click that picture and want to see what we did. And it's a true lesson in the power of YouTube, the power of search, and the power of analytics. If you actually play a little Moneyball, James Ellsworth helped the NWA greatly with one appearance and no chin.
Well, we all know I push numbers. We all know how cool I am. But Dave, let's talk a little bit about you. You're a former WWE writer. You're now working under Billy Corgan with the NWA. I never met you before this NWA stuff, and I DM'd you and I told you I was a big fan of the 10 Pounds Cold videos. Like I said, if anybody out there listening hasn't seen these videos, you got to go check them out on YouTube. NWA 10 Pounds of Gold. There's footage from All In on there. Again, there's the match with Nick Aldis and I that hit over 1 million views. Like, it's really good content. I'm still a big fan of it. I check it out every week. Can you tell the Dougcast listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. We'll go day by day of my entire life. I always like doing that. I grew up a big wrestling fan. In 1985, I saw my first ever NWA event at the Philadelphia Civic Center with Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and the 10 Pounds of Gold. It was right before they switched to the big gold belt, which some people love and I don't get, but that's okay. And I've been a wrestling fan ever since. I worked in Hollywood for a short couple years right out of college, and then as there was a writer's strike coming in 2001, 2002, and I got offered a job to be on the writing team of WWE. I was there from 2002 to 2008, in what I call the forgotten era, the era they don't really talk about very much in lore. It's the ruthless aggression era. It was HLA. It was Katie Vick. It was Billy and Chuck's wedding.
Did you write all that? Let me just ask real quick.
I was on the SmackDown writing team, so I can take full credit, and I can't wait for the clickbait headline. I will take full credit for Al Wilson, even though not really. Al Wilson and Dawn Marie's wedding and the funeral, and I told the story before of, I wanted Al Wilson to come back from the dead and cut a tremendous promo on his daughter and then get hit by a bus. It was a really unique time, and we're actually really happy that it's on the network now because people can go watch this insanity that show. And Jamie Noble and Nydia. Yeah, on the same show you had Al Wilson dying. You had Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle getting ready to wrestle at WrestleMania. It's a really unique show back in the 2002, 2003 era. So.
How did you find yourself part of the NWA? You have this great lineage in wrestling, and I'm always interested in wondering the jump. The NWA is something I grew up in Georgia. I was a WCW NWA guy myself. I still love WCW more than WWE. It's just in my blood. To revive almost a forgotten organization like NWA, how important was it to you, and how did that come about?
It really kind of is everything because, my backstory in wrestling, I worked at WWE and then I worked at Ring of Honor while it was still owned by Kerry Silkin. And then when Sinclair bought it, I was not part of the transition team. I was still sort of working there, but found myself in a weakened position for the company as far as, a new management takes over, they're going to go with their guys. So I ended up working at TNA. Jeff Jarrett brought me into TNA to work on Ring King and some other stuff, and then ended up writing Impact for 5 years. And then as we call it, as the Game of Thrones happened in 2016 Impact with everything, Billy and I were gone from there. So we took a couple months off. And Billy had actually spoke to Bruce Tharp in advance of the Impact implosion, because if we ended up with the brand, we wanted to rebrand it. And he looked into the NWA then. The suggestion was brought up to us by Dave Marquez to look into it. Billy outright bought the brand, and ultimately in July of 2016. And why the NWA? Because it was an undervalued asset. You could argue various different regimes have had control of the brand over the years, and I'm not going to judge the work they put in or what happened. There were mitigating circumstances of why things sort of went the way they were. And, I looked at every period of the NWA, and I think you could argue the most successful, largest penetration the NWA had was from 1983 to 1987, 88, when it was really sort of run by Jim Crockett Promotions, and they were sort of the sole pusher of the brand. Now, you look at that and go, okay, that period worked, but also everyone always knew those NWA World's Champions. So when we took over the brand, we looked at what really worked and what didn't. And Carney Wrestling Promoters, and James, I know you deal with them on a daily basis, try get 10 really smart people to decide to where to go to dinner. Okay, that's probably really hard. Now get 10 wrestling promoters to decide who the world champion should be. That's really hard. And so, once we consolidated the brand under one ownership, it became sort of easy to just set a course on focusing on who the world champion is. And so, to roll it back to James, so you have Nick Aldis, who is the traveling world's champion. And in the old days, he would go to various territories and wrestle guys like James or somebody else in the territory and tell really compelling stories. Now, we don't have territories, so we sort of look at the world as our territory. And wherever we go with that title, we lean on the history of the brand and the 10 pounds of gold.
Well, Dave, I know you guys have worked very hard on this the last 14 plus months, and it had to be really cool for you guys in 14 months' time for the NWA World Championship under Nick Aldis, who I like and respect, and he's like the prototype of what a professional wrestler should look like. He's an awesome promo, and I'm a big fan of the guy, and I enjoyed working with him, and hopefully get to work with him again in the future. But so the NWA World Championship out under you guys' tenure, that 14-month tenure, was defended in front of 11,000 plus people at All In. That had to be really cool for you and Billy and Nick Aldis to pull that off in just 14 months time. Talk to us a little bit about
ultimately,
All In.
we didn't even really take creative of the brand over until actually September 24th. This past Sunday, I was standing in the exact same spot we did our very first sort of piece of creative when Tim Storm walked out to be interviewed by Dave Marquez in Championship Wrestling from Holly. That was September 24th of last year. And there I stood in the same exact spot just under 12 months later with Cody Rhodes holding the NWA title. And, I said to Cody, I did not think we would be standing here 1 year later. And it's really a testament to the hard work that everybody put in. And I made sure to go around to everybody who helped us. I went up to James at All In and said, thank you for helping us this year. Everybody from Colt Cabana to Crimson to Josephus to Tim Storm to obviously Nick Aldis put a lot of work in to get to that spot. And obviously Billy's commitment to a vision that we all sort of found of a singular vision. Because I think there's a chance to have a niche product in this world where a certain segment of fans want something different. All In was the sort of payout of that, because there were 10,000, 11,000 fans that wanted to see something different. When you lay the All In audience on pay-per-view, TV, and everything next to the WWE audience, it's still less than 1%. But you can be successful with less than 1% if you give that audience something to dive into.
My question, going back to when you were talking a little bit about your time in Impact, I do a podcast on the same network with Petey Williams, who is an original Impact, back in Impact, and he talks openly about how bad the regime was in the early days towards the end, and the change in the Impact regime now, and how they're trying to rebuild bridges and try to fix Scorn Earth, essentially. Have you guys talked with this new regime now? What's the relationship like? Icy at best, maybe. What can you talk, being the VP now of NWA and you kind of traveling around to these other organizations? I've kind of noticed that it feels like Impact is still on the outside looking in. I don't know what the relationship there is like.
So we have a relationship based upon, some business things that sort of are still being executed from the past. But we shot the empty arena match with Josephus and Tim Storm at the Impact Zone. The NWA title was in Impact. We've licensed some footage of guys like AJ and, Ron Truth Killings and Ken Shamrock and Double J and all that stuff from them. the relationship is the same that's with everybody, meaning we're open to doing business if it makes sense. Billy and I, we had hoped we would end up running Impact, but obviously as things changed out, we're very happy with where we ended up. And, we wish everybody the best. What we learned is everybody's got to sort of execute their game plan. And, the team that took over executed theirs. And, they had a couple false starts. And it trust me, knowing what we knew about the brand, in 2016, there was a lot that needed to be cleaned up from the business end. And I think the success of what's going on a lot of various levels are business related in various territories. The booking is the booking, but you need to have your business right to make it work.
Absolutely. And Dave, on October 21st in Nashville, Tennessee, you have the 70th year anniversary of the NWA, which is crazy. I think it's 70 years old. Talk to us a little bit about that. Where can people get tickets? You and I talked earlier. It looks like I'm going to be a part of it. I'm very excited. Just, let us know where people can check it out.
You are? No, we're exploring various different talents, and James obviously earned a spot on the 70th anniversary show. What that spot will be, still to be determined. And a lot of guys that, helped us get here. If you want ticket information, I believe it's NWA70.com. It's on, our Twitter page and everything, the ticket links. There's a limited amount of ringside seats left, and then general admission, and it's being held at the National Asylum, where, the NWA TNA kicked off in 2002. Jeff Jarrett's helping promote the event. He's got a large tie to the NWA, including his grandmother promoting the NWA back in the 40s and 50s. We're leaning on history, and, off of All In, they have the ability to have the rematch. I think you would say was the lasting memory of All In, meaning the thing that people emotionally felt the most connected to was that NWA title match. It's really special for this. And, I asked Cody in an interview that I'm hopefully going to post the next day or two. I said, what does it mean for you? At 3 years old, you know what I mean? His father was the top guy of the NWA. And here, almost 30 years later, or maybe 30 years later, you're main eventing the 70th anniversary of this company that your father basically shepherded and led in the 80s. And it's a huge responsibility because it's this thing that everyone sort of forgot. And it just kind of shows if you give something attention and treat it how it should be treated. And this is, by the way, a lesson in life, how good it can be. And, we're so happy that people seem to respond. And our audience is small. We're happy with each person that bought a ticket. Like, if I literally was helping people buy tickets one by one the morning the tickets went on sale because people were really genuinely interested. And that's how we're doing this. I always say brick by brick. It's ticket by ticket.
Is this the first whole NWA show that is going to be run under your regime?
Yes. 1 year. We did not run one show, and everybody. If you could read the feedback and messages over the last year, what are these guys up to? Why aren't they running shows? Where's the roster? Why don't they have a website? Where's their TV deal? Why are they just on YouTube? And it's all sort of worked out because we wanted to get people to care before we asked them to buy. And I think too often people put the money ahead of the feeling, and I don't even know when our next show will be. I think we want to do this and then see where we're at. I think it's important to get the message and the product right. This will be over about probably 93% of most wrestling fans' head. But, this is not a wrestling company. This is a startup brand similar to something like Airbnb, which Airbnb was a sort of an innovation of hotels where you can rent somebody's house like a hotel room. And all that stuff. That company existed in 2008, and it took 6 years for them to even hit critical mass where they had a certain number of users. That's how we're looking at the NWA. We could scale at any time based upon demand, but we're also not going to scale to make demand, if that makes sense. And a lot of wrestling companies, and I was at TNA when we went on the road, and they were 2 years late on scaling for demand. And, they should have sometime in 2011 when the numbers were there. You have to understand scaling when it's necessary. So this show, it's, a sellout is 1,605 tickets. That is, we felt that was attainable. Instead of going to the Bridgestone Arena, we wanted to get the feeling right on this show and start small and grow from there.
Absolutely. And you got a good main event for the 7th anniversary, like you touched on earlier. Cody Rhodes, the new NWA World Champion, taking on the former champion Nick Aldis. Two guys I have a lot of respect for. Cody, man, he left WWE, bet on himself, and boy, did it pay off. He's an inspiration, man. Obviously a very talented guy, always has been, and he knew his worth, and he went out there and he accomplished things that nobody's ever accomplished, like leaving WWE and doing the things him and the Young Bucks and all those guys are doing. It's amazing. Again, Nick Aldis, I had said it earlier, just the prototype of what a champion should look like, what a wrestler should look like. Well-spoken guy in his promos. Hell of a main event you got there. But I'm going to switch gears real quick. We said earlier, you're a former WWE writer, which has to be one of the hardest jobs in professional wrestling is to write for WWE. I never knock the writers. A lot of people ask me at conventions, independent wrestling shows, and all that, like, hey, why aren't you on the show right now? And I'm like, hey, they brought me back this year. They wrote for me. I'm not knocking those guys. They have a very, very tough and hard job. So two-part question here, Dave. Number one, how hard was that job? Number two, if you were to write for James Ellsworth right now, what kind of scenario would it be in WWE? Go ahead.
It is so I talk about systems. The WWE system is built around its leader. Vince. My favorite discussion now is that Vince is out of touch. Right? That seems to be the standard. Why does he push Roman Reigns? And it goes back to what I just said about business. Working for Vince McMahon, and I said this somewhere else too, and I'm not going to stress this. I can't stress this enough. People should pay to want to work in those positions. I got a master's degree in life by working for Vince McMahon when I was 25, 26 years old. I paid $100,000 for a college education back in college education. I paid $100,000. I would have paid triple that to have if that was the way to work for Vince, to learn what I learned from him. So, like that to me was that job, and understanding how that job works. Vince will work harder than anybody. He works till 3:00 in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, he wants and demands you work hard, and that's the job. For me, that was such a life lesson because, a typical day for a writer it's like The Boys, but longer at times, because at WWE you would let's do a pay-per-view week. If you're lucky, we're on Vince's plan. This is 2002, 2008. If it's different now, I can't equate to it, as I haven't worked there in 10 years. But you'd be at the plane at 6 a.m. to fly 3 hours usually to wherever the show is. You land at 11. You go to the production meeting. You sit through a 3-hour production meeting. Then you go start shooting pre-tapes, writing segments, getting Vince to sign off, then going to talent who look at you like you're an insane person. Say, do I really have to do this? Then they say yes, and then you do it. And then you rinse and repeat 3 days in a row, and you land, if you're lucky, again, to be on the private plane, you land at 4 a.m. back in Connecticut, and you're back in the office at 11 a.m. on Wednesday to start writing segments to pitch Thursday and Friday to Vince. And rinse and repeat. You find me somebody that can do that job and do it well, and by the way, be creative in it. It's like running a triathlon every day. And and being creative. Like, when I tell people in Hollywood what that job is like, they're like, how is that possible? 52 weeks a year, 7 hours of original content every week. Like, it's insane, the demands on that job. And yes, Vince is insane, but guess what? His company is worth $10 billion, up from $3 billion. If that's out of touch, I want to be insane. So as far as writing for James Ellsworth, James, I tell you this all the time. You have two different directions you can go with your career. You can be the underdog, or you can be the smarmy guy. And sometimes you do both. And, I think you saw with the thing we did with you with Nick Aldis, leaning on history and beating AJ, it was a perfect entry point into the NWA and really anywhere. They did if I were you, I would have paid to be in that spot.
Right.
Have that be part of your legacy, and you lucked into it. You were in the right place at the right time, and you executed. And whatever happens. Nobody can take that from you. The two biggest stars in WWE made in the last 5 years are Braun Strowman and AJ Styles. And you did memorable pieces of business with them that your career will always be tied to, which is why when we talked, if you go on YouTube and search James Ellsworth, what are the three things that are suggested? James Ellsworth, AJ Styles, James Ellsworth versus Braun Strowman, and then James Ellsworth versus at the time Becky Lynch, right?
Absolutely.
So you leverage history, and that's how this new world goes. So
I have two more questions. One of the questions I'm very interested in is a little inside baseball for me. Is let's leave the money aspect out, but when you settle on a guy that you want to be your next champion, let's for giggles here say it's James Ellsworth. You guys agree on the money. How does everything go from there on out as far as booking and shows? He's representing your belt, but he's probably working for many different other companies. How does the management of that one piece of talent work on your end?
Well, I'll use sort of the NWA title as because it's easier for me to kind of lay out about at least how we create. So. And everything we create is transparent and in front of you. You know what I mean? Like, as far as, all of our story, and, James was a part of it, and James's segments were a little bit more traditional as far as, in-ring, match, aftermath. But, James really didn't get what I call the 10 pounds of gold treatment in his story. It just, the timing of it didn't work because he was sort of the kickoff to the Aldous Crusade, and we sort of pivoted to Cabana. But, the content that I make and that we make with the NWA is very personal. If you watch the Cody Rhodes, Nick Aldis stuff, it to me was really sort of very personal. And because a lot of people still sort of execute their creative like it's 1998 as far as the tone, and we coined the phrase the authentic era right when Nick Aldis won the title, and off of the success of Tim Storm, that to me was really important because I think that's how people live. And I joke that, in modern Facebook and Twitter world, your mom is a character now. Your mom is creating content with Facebook posts, and you're now Roseanne Barr is not just competing with other television star shows. I know she's not on TV anymore, but you're now competing with videos with cats all the time. Like, you have to create content that engages an audience in every platform, and you can't create the same in every platform. Like, I'll use an example. When James Ellsworth walked out to face Nick Aldis, we simply put up a picture. Nick Aldis' first challenger is ... and a picture of James Ellsworth. I'd have to go back and look at that tweet, but I remember that day. It was even before the match happened. It was just the in-ring. And that tweet, when something works on Twitter when it gets all those quote tweets and retweets and all that stuff, and people are interested and they want to know more. And that, to me, is how you create content in 2018. It's not dream matches. It's just simply finding things that engage people in various ways. And we just did it with Willie Mack. When we announced Cody was defending against Willie Mack, we did sort of the same treatment. He announced it in an in-ring that I put out 2 days later, but I knew the news was going to get out on websites, so I wanted to own the information. So I had to tweet the second it happened because I knew when it was going to happen. And that you can go look. It was our best tweet of the week, and it simply captured the attention of people. Like, you have to think how people consume content. And you can't just I'll use an example of an NWA promoter. When we took over the brand, and I literally talked to every promoter, I said, do you use Facebook ads to promote your shows locally? Because you can literally market to WWE fans on Facebook. And I think James, you and I talked about this. He's like, I do Facebook. I was like, show me you doing Facebook. and he shows me that he posted a poster on his own Facebook page that he had 32 friends on. I said, that's not doing Facebook. So I spend more time learning about wrestling marketing than I do wrestling marketing. So that's where I am as far as utilizing a character in a story. To me, it's all about what people want to see, how they want to watch it, and where they want to watch it.
Dave, do you have not Dave? James, do you have another question, or can I wrap it up?
I thought you had two questions. You asked one. Dave, I apologize. Like I said, I think I told you earlier, this guy, Dennis, I don't know where I found him or how he found me, but he's just a complete idiot. I have to deal with him every Tuesday. Luckily, I'm getting paid. But go ahead, Dennis, ask your second question, because you said you had two, and then we'll wrap it up.
I'm glad you mentioned Twitter, because I've been following you for a long time. I'm a big fan of the way you handle Twitter. Your DMs are open to people. You ask questions that are really thought-provoking and make it, you even say, if you don't want to answer, DM me. I will read all your DMs.
Yeah.
How did you get that kind of mentality on Twitter with all the trolls, where Twitter is, protects, celebrities or, people in, I don't want to use the word power, but people in the spotlight? Twitter is kind of there to, separate but bring together, but you bring down those barriers. At what point did you say, I don't want to run my Twitter feed like that?
There's a large, and if you follow me, you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, right? You've seen Gary V. I talk about Gary all the time. Full disclosure, 2 years ago, Billy and I went and met with Gary V in the apex of the impact problems, just simply from Gary's one of the smartest people. Complete hustler. Went from running a wine store in New Jersey to being partnered with a guy who owns the Dolphins in VaynerMedia. I'm blanking on the guy who owns the Dolphins name right now, but literally built a digital marketing company from the ground up, completely anti Madison Avenue, but has built this firm that learned how to build content inside of this. So I ended up Gary had his book called Crush It that came out in 2009. I used to buy all these books, and it was the only one I read in 2009 that really sort of spoke to me about social media. And over the years, I've kind of bought his books, but it's like that thing where you would know a name. But in 2012, there was an article about him in the New York Times, and he would go on Twitter and say, "What do you need?" And one guy said, "I need a cheeseburger," and he sent the guy a cheeseburger. Literally ordered the guy a cheeseburger, and the guy never forgot it. And so, over the years, and as the Impact thing started to sort of crater in 2016, I found his content. He was doing a daily vlog. If you go watch Gary V's Daily V vlog, it sure looks a lot like 10 Pounds of Gold, just with different of a businessman versus a wrestler. And Gary's well aware of it. And the guy that did his series named D-Rock, I think his name's David Rock, I learned a lot from them in just watching their content. And then when we met with them, to me, you can't be nice enough to people without expectation, especially in a world where wrestlers literally all day on Twitter promote, buy my t-shirt, do this, do that. And fans do because they want to support them. But there comes a point with the success of the Young Bucks and Cody, they learned a certain thing of being really true to their fans. And, when I was at WWE, I was enemy number one to the talent, to fans, because I didn't have a voice. And I wish I was able to talk to Pat Patterson, when I was a young wrestling fan that wanted to learn about the business. I got the chance to learn from Pat when I worked at WWE, and Pat doesn't have a Twitter now, like the ability to really give back. It's like the most often asked question I get. How do I become a WWE writer? Okay, well, how do you get anywhere in life? You need to create something that makes you unique to an audience. And people are like, can I send you my Roman Reigns story? No. Go find a talent, that you can go learn how to create content and make yourself valuable, that somebody has to hire you. Has to hire you. Jimmy Long, who worked at Impact, for years, he wanted to make videos for talents. That guy worked really hard. He got a job at Impact, worked really hard, helped build the Broken Universe, and then just got hired by WWE to make content as part, I think it's the NXT Content Lab. I don't know. It's on his Twitter. But that's how you get noticed and everything. So giving back to people, that's why I put my time, because my time is super valuable. And like the guy today was like, what day? He DM'd me, he goes, what day is the NWA show? I was like, dude, if you can Google it, don't ask me. I said, I'm only telling you that because, I'm just never going to want to talk to you because you don't understand the value of somebody's time. And I said, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I offer my time to truly help you. And if you go, what day is the show? That is Googleable. So people's time is really valuable. And I try to give all of my time to people that I can, because I've gotten this far by certain people helping me. And if I can help one person, then that's good for the world. And if it helps me down the line, great. But I have no expectation. I put those things out. I have no expectation of anything in return from people. And it works out because then you're pleasantly surprised.
Dave, it was great having you on the Dougcast. You're well-spoken, man, and I'm a big fan of that because I'm not like a well-spoken man. I have my moments where I can cut a great promo and tell a story, but I can't use those very big and nice, awesome words that you guys use, and I'm a fan of that. But, yeah, you guys are doing a great job with NWA. I'm a big fan of 10 Pounds of Gold. I watch every single thing you guys put up. If anyone hasn't checked that out yet, please go to YouTube. Type in 10 Pounds of Gold, NWA, and you'll love the videos, especially if you're a big wrestling fan. Dave, looking forward to the 70th anniversary of NWA. Can't wait to see you guys. And if you want to help me out, if you want to help one person out, you go to BlueChew.com and use the promo code #Ellsworth to get yourself some Blue Chew. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Do you have to use the Blue Chew with you?
No. You just type my name in. Yeah.
Because like I said, because that might limit your audience a little bit, but I'm sure, James, some people have slid into your DMs wanting to use the Blue Chew with you.
One day I'll show you my DMs and you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I'm sorry about my sister.
Don't be.
And I'm sorry, I know you're scarred for life after listening to Dennis, but I promise next time we have you on, I'll just put the mute button on him.
Oh, good.
Wow, James, that was a great interview. Growing up on the NWA and being able to talk to Dave about the past and the future of it was pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, he's a very smart guy, man. I got to hang out with him in California and shoot those videos for 10 Pounds of Gold, and I had a great time doing it. I'm looking forward to doing some more, hopefully at the 70th anniversary of NWA there. And, yeah, they got a good thing going on. I'm a big Smashing Pumpkins fan, too, and Billy Corgan, he's the owner of the NWA and lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins, lead vocalist. And, yeah, it's just all cool for me, man, because I was a big fan of the NWA growing up as well. Ricky Morton's the first wrestler I ever noticed on NWA television there on TBS. So it's cool for me as well.
So let's wrap this up. We got to talk. We're going to skip SmackDown. We're going to skip Raw. For just 1 second, you and I disagree about the ending of Hell in a Cell. And I'm excited that we kind of disagree because I loved the way the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view ended. If you didn't get a chance to get it, pause this podcast now. Go watch it. But if you're not going to pause it, I assume you know what, James. I'll start with my point of view. I know a lot of people are upset because you cannot have a Hell in a Cell match and not have a ending. It's almost like having a no DQ match and end in a DQ. But with all the excitement that they gave us, you had the Shield and whatever the group of Ziggler's name is called, fighting on top of the cage. You have Brock Lesnar come out. I did not read any of the dirt sheets, so I did not know he was going to be there. I was surprised. The kicking in of the door was great. He comes in and just dismantles both guys. I thought if you were going to do a no ending kind of match, that's the way I wanted to see it.
Here's the thing, it's not that I disagree with it. I never try to question their booking. Like Dave and I were talking about, he used to be a writer for WWE. That is a very, very hard job. All those guys work very hard. They're unsung heroes, man. And, like, my point of view about the ending is, like, the fans, like, this is the way I feel, in my humble opinion, the fans feel. They just, matches like that, big matches, Hell in a Cell matches, title matches, on pay-per-view, they want to see a winner. That's how I feel they feel, and, and that's the only thing. I mean, it could have been, and it's just weird. That's like, wrestling, it's predetermined, it's a work, it's a show. But man, to the fans, someone winning the match is a big deal. It really is, always has been, and rightfully so. That's the way the show ends. And, but that's the ending they decided to go with. And there's a story going forward. There's going to be a triple threat match at the next, the Super Showdown. So, I mean, it made sense. It's not that it didn't make sense. I just feel like the fans want to see a winner, and big matches like that. And, that's just how I see the fans reacting to it.
Can I ask one more question? I know it's late. We're recording a little bit behind schedule, but I have to ask you this. The network specials on top of the pay-per-views, does that feel a little too much for you as a fan? Because I would love them to go back to making the pay-per-views feel special with 4 or 6 a year. Now we have, network specials and pay-per-views. And I almost feel like the WWE is going to eat itself to death when it comes to overexposing us to special events.
Overexposing. You see how quick and easy I said that word. Anyway, again, Dave touched it on earlier. $10 billion company. They're doing something right. Here's my opinion on it. When I was, 13, 14, 15 years old, I would have loved the WWE network, and I would have loved for all this wrestling to be on. Because when I was that age and I didn't have to work a job, and school was my only thing that I had to do, that was, that I needed to do, like, I loved watching wrestling. I loved watching WWE, WCW, ECW, like anything that was on TV, I had to watch it. So I don't know if that's how teenagers feel this day, but 13 to 15-year-old me would have loved all this content and all these special events and all these pay-per-views and all these Raws and SmackDowns and NXTs and Mae Young Classics and 205 Live and Mixed Match Challenge. It's a lot of content, but I think they're trying to appeal to everyone. There's people that like women's wrestling. There's people that like cruiserweight wrestling. There's people that like Raw and SmackDown, who've been watching it forever. There's people that want to see these special events on the WWE network to make it worth their $10 a month. So there's two ways to look at it. One, yeah, it's a lot of stuff. At 30, I'm going on 34 years old. I can't watch it all, but 13-year-old me would have loved this. So I don't know if that's how kids think these days, but I know when I was a teenager, I would have loved to watch all this stuff, and I would have watched every bit of it because I just loved wrestling at that age, and I still do now, but I'm an adult and I have kids to take care of, and I have to wrestle 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week to make ends meet, and I don't have time to watch it all, and I got to watch an occasional football game, the Ravens every week. I'm a big football fan, but yeah, it is a lot of content, and I get what you're saying about, man, back in the day, like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, you add in King of the Ring there, Survivor Series and SummerSlam. Those were your main 4 and 5 with King of the Ring added in 93. Like, you looked forward to those big events. They felt important. They felt special, which, like Royal Rumble and WrestleMania still feel special to me. Those are my 2 favorite pay-per-views, always have been, always will be. Maybe Money in the Bank might take prestige over the Royal Rumble now because I've played a big part in 2 Money in the Banks now, and just, professionally, that Money in the Bank will always be near and dear to my heart. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I understand your point of view of it, and I think there's people that will agree with that as well. Like, man, these events used to feel more special, but now there's just so many of them. But again, they're doing something right, man, because it's worth $10 billion. Duh.
So, as we in this podcast, I do want to ask you. You posted a great picture of your daughter holding one of your Topps cards as she fell asleep. Do your kids, and they're still very young, but do they understand who James Ellsworth is, what he does? He's a TV wrestler. He's special. Because when I was with ESPN, my daughter was younger, and she just assumed that every kid's dad was on the radio. Now I'm not, so I'm just like every kid's dad now. But you're a professional wrestler. Do they quite understand?
Well, the 6-year-old, she's in first grade now. She understands it a little more because her teacher knows who I am, and a lot of the kids in her class know who I am, and they're like, "Man, that's so cool. Your dad's on TV." And so she gets it to an extent. Obviously at 6 years old, you can't get it all the way. The 3-year-old, the Topps card story, man, that was as a father, that was one of the coolest moments, of my fatherhood. Um, she has a toy box there in her room, and she grabs stuff as any 3-year-old does off of calendars, off of tables, and that particular card she grabbed off of a table, and I wasn't home yet yesterday, and her mom put her to sleep, and she just took the card with her in the crib. Her mom said. So when I got home, I sat down, watched TV for a little bit, watched a little bit of Raw, and flipping back and forth from Raw, Monday Night Football, and I go in the room to check on her as I do my daughters every night before I go to sleep, and I I looked in the room and I was like, and I looked at her, I'm like, wait, is she holding? So she just had my Topps card in her hand and fell asleep with her in her hand, and I just got back from 4 days on the road wrestling, so she hadn't seen me. So I was just like, oh my God, like she has my card in her hand. She must have missed me. Like, I can't wait till she wakes up in the morning so I can see her. And it was cool, man, just to know that my wrestling career literally could end tomorrow. And like Dave said earlier, I was very lucky to be in that spot with Strowman, and I knocked it out of the park. I was right place, right time, but it did take me knocking it out of the park for me to get the spot on, as a contracted wrestler on WWE. Like, it just wasn't handed to me. Like, I had to do a good job. I continued to do a good job before I earned the contract. And just for me to have like Topps cards and action figures and all that, it could all end tomorrow. And man, I was very blessed. Do I want it to end tomorrow? Hell no. I got so much more I need to accomplish. Not want to accomplish. I need to accomplish it, not just for me, but for my daughters going forward. And I will. And I promise you and everybody that's listening here on the Duckcast, I will accomplish those things. I will get back to WWE, and I will continue to, extend this James Ellsworth name that I was very blessed to be giving. And like, just seeing something like my daughter holding a Topps card of me, it just adds fuel to the fire of, man, I need to focus. I need to work hard. I need to get back there.
All right, let's wrap up. And great story. I had to mention on the podcast. I would have felt like a bad friend if I didn't even bring that up. So promotion time, James. Talk about where you're going to be.
Well, yeah, this weekend I was supposed to be in the Carolinas for Big Time Wrestling, but obviously, rightfully so, they had to postpone those shows because of Hurricane Florence. And if anyone's listened that was affected by that, my prayers are with you. I hope you're getting together. Anytime a natural disaster happens, it's terrible, man. I hate watching it on TV. I can't watch it because I'm such a people person. I feel bad when stuff like that happens, man. It's just a shame. But now I'm going to go to the horror convention in Atlantic City I literally 30 seconds after those shows got postponed, I was booked at a horror convention with Hall and Nash Friday and Saturday there in Atlantic City at the Showboat Hotel. I'll be there from 5 to 9 Friday night, and then Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Come out there and meet your boy James Ellsworth, get your autograph, get your picture, get your Rehire Ellsworth shirt, and just, bring me food. And as always, you can check out where I'm going to be on my Twitter at Real Ellsworth, on my Instagram at James Ellsworth Wrestling, and as always, visit my wrestling promotion, Adrenaline Championship Wrestling, at adrenalinewrestling.com. Got a big show taking on Jerry Lawler in Hanover, Pennsylvania, September the 28th. And you can get your tickets on adrenalinewrestling.com, like I just said. Man, it's been a great podcast. I had a great time talking to Dave. Always enjoy talking to him. He's very smart about the wrestling business. Just guys like him are unsung heroes, and I like hearing their stories here on the Dogcast.
Thanks, James. Remember, head over to iTunes, subscribe. That's the big one. Rate 5 stars. Leave a comment. That's huge, too. WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. You can go there, and wherever you listen to your podcast, you can listen to it right off the website. Also there, WrestlingPerspective.podbean.com. That's another huge one for us. There are so many people I don't thank enough. I mean, some of our biggest supporters, CVE Cody. Look, he's been a great friend of the podcast, always retweeting us. Dave Chris from OVE is a huge supporter of ours. I'll just say her name, whatever it is on Twitter, but Sassy Greyjoy, another huge supporter. I really appreciate all the feedback she gives me. Chad Reese, Reiss. If I missaid your name, I apologize. Look, Michael Berry, another good friend of the show. I really appreciate everything you do. If I missed your name, Derek, listen, Grocery Store Derek, big supporter. Michael David Savage, huge supporter of ours. I mean, I could keep Kenneth Fensel, another one. Dylan Hart, thank you. I'm just going down my Twitter feed and the people. Mazzy May, I appreciate you. Matt Coon's been cool, but I don't think he listens. Listen, Just Aaron, my giraffe guy. I love that guy. He is one of the guys who will bust our balls online. But at the end of the day, he's a supporter of ours. I enjoy him. He's a great guy. So on and so on. I mean, my buddy Russ. I mean, come on. The GMB Wrestling Podcast guys. I love them. 10-year-old kid does a podcast. Go listen to him, man. On and on and on and on. So thank you. If I didn't mention you, you can email me, you can tweet me. I'll make sure you get a message, because every one of you guys do, every second, if you made it this far and you're listening to me ramble, means the world to me. So thank you. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to every subscriber. Thank you to every listener. Thank you, Dave, for doing the podcast. Thank you, Chris Jericho. I'm just in a thank you kind of mood. There we go. I'm going to end it now. Whatever's next is next. Enjoy your commute. Enjoy going to bed. Enjoy your late night work. No matter where you are, where you're listening, us here at the Duckcast, we appreciate you and thank you.